Brother Robert, are you going to do any more Jesse Lee Peterson interviews? Let me answer your question, Brother Robert. Thank you for the cash app of $10, Brother Robert. If he made it a substantial donation to the school, Brother Robert, I would rejoin Jesse Lee Peterson's platform. But I believe Jesse Lee Peterson is a paid Negro peon. I believe Candace Owens is a paid Negro peon. One thing you have to understand about the white power structure when you're talking about Candace Owens and Jesse Lee Peterson's, okay? One thing you have to understand, the white power structure, through the government or through the corporate structure, they find influential Negroes and they buy them out in order to change the level of consciousness in Black America. Candace Owens was sponsored by the white power structure so she could begin to dilute the Black first narrative. Candace Owens and Jesse Lee Peterson, these kind of Negroes, these types of Negroes are found and funded. They are found and funded in order to distract from the narrative. See, you have to understand something. Intellectual confusion is the enemy of mass organization, Brother Robert. Intellectual confusion is the enemy of mass organization. So what they love to do, they see me out here, right? So they say, okay, let's look at the Black intellectual landscape. So they sit back and they say, okay, we have to continue to control the narrative. Social network is making it difficult for us to control the narrative for Black America. Because you have people like DR.UMAR Ifatunde, who's the leading Black radical scholar in the world for African people. We have DR.UMAR Ifatunde, who's the leading Black radical scholar, period, in the African diaspora. And then underneath him, you have all of these copycats who take his content and repeat it. So it's he has a whole movement, the intellectual insurrection that DR.UMAR is leading. They say, okay, we have to take away from DR.UMAR's power in the social media sector because he's getting too many views. And Black people are tuning into DR.UMAR as much as they tune into CNN. Black people are tuning into DR.UMAR as much as they tune into a Roland Martin. And Roland Martin is not as bad as a Candace Owens or a Jesse Lee Peterson, but Roland Martin is another example of a found and financed Negro. So Roland Martin doesn't push the Republican agenda. He pushes the Democrat agenda. Roland Martin doesn't push the Republican agenda. Roland Martin pushes the Democrat agenda. But whether it's Candace Owens on the Republican side or Roland Martin on the Democrat side, both sides are anti-Black independence. Both sides are anti-Black revolution. Both sides are anti-African family first. So whether it's Roland Martin feeding you integration or Candace Owens feeding you integration, neither one is feeding you Pan-Africanism. Neither one is feeding you Pan-Africanism. So the Democrats are financing Roland and the Republicans are financing Candace, okay? And both of those roads are diverting you from the road to liberation. The road to liberation is not paved with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. The road to liberation is not paved with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. Okay. So my voice, although I'm largely alone, supported by you all, is a very, very powerful voice. They're looking at most of the YouTubian struggle streamers and they're saying, well, those guys ain't doing nothing but talk about gossip, talking about each other, slandering Black people, chasing celebrities, goofing off. They have no real constructive content. They have no real constructive content. It's all gossip and sensationalism. But this DR.UMAR Ifatunde guy. So we have to intensify Candace Owens. We have to intensify Jesse Lee Peterson. We have to intensify Roland Martin. We got to intensify all the beta male Democratic plantation party pundits, because DR.UMAR is getting too powerful right now. He's getting too powerful. So to answer your question, my brother, I don't want to drive any more of my support base to Jesse Lee Peterson's platform unless I'm getting something out of it that's going to benefit the movement. If I'm not getting something out of it to benefit the movement, it's no need for me to go on Jesse Lee Peterson's platform. Sister Sharon, what are your thoughts on Brother Polite? You really want to know my thoughts on Brother Polite? I'll give you my history with Brother Polite, okay? Because I don't want to speak negatively about the brother. You know, he doesn't mention me. I don't mention him. He's not one of my favorite people. He and I, along with Cyrus Suit Seti, were the three speakers at an event that Brother Sarnetta hosted back in 2011, 2012. I had just taken over the conscious movement as its king about a year prior. And I showed up to the National Black Theater that night for an event that was called Gathering of the Young Masters. I believe Brother Seti presented first, Polite presented second, I presented third. When it was time for me to present, the Brother Polite didn't want to get off the stage. It took King Simon, Sarnetta, and other people to remind him that his time was done and he needed to get out the way. He also made some subliminal comments that were somewhat disrespectful as well. I ignored him, being the #1 orator alive. Obviously, I took over the show, blew it down. The rest was history. That was the first incident. The second incident was when the COINTELHO scandal took place in 2015 with Mrs. Kim Ringworm. For whatever reason, he decided to do a 1 to 2 hour seminar on the COINTELHO scandal and went so far as to accuse me of being a fraud and a scammer and saying the school would never work. And if I had any sense, I would give him the money to invest in the school. And I didn't understand why somebody whose name I don't mention would stick their name in my business when it has nothing to do with him. And that was pretty much the end of that. I did get an Instagram message from Brother Polite a couple years ago, respectfully. He said that he was interested in some form of collaboration. He slid into my DMs on Instagram. I didn't respond, and no disrespect to him at all. And I appreciate him stepping up. If that was a genuine attempt to try to reconcile our past differences, I can appreciate that from any black man. And if that was a genuine attempt to reconcile, I appreciate it. But I am one person who is firmly of the mindset that we can reconcile. But my history has shown me that it's best not to go back to work with folks that you previously had issues with, because black people have a very difficult time burying the hatchet. Now, with regard to the accusations that have been made against him regarding pedophilia, child sexual abuse, I cannot speak to that. I have seen arguments that say the brother is innocent. I have seen arguments that say the brother is guilty. I understand his court case is still proceeding, and it is not my place to meddle in that, just like I did not meddle in his teacher, or who he claims to be his teacher, the great Dr. Malachi Z. York. I've had people who have asked me to come to Dr. York's defense. I've had people who have asked me to not come to Dr. York's defense. So I approach Brother Polite's accusations and criminal charges the same way I approach Dr. Malachi Z. York's accusations and criminal charges, and that is hands off until the dust settles and I can evaluate the whole truth to give my opinion. I do not believe in minding people's business. Okay, even though he minded my business before, I'm not going to mind his business. It's not my place. I hope the charges are not true. I hope he is exonerated. If the charges do prove to be true, then I'll have another conversation at that time. But right now, the brother is owed the time and the respect to defend his not guilty position. And I will respectfully allow him to do that. Let me go on to the next question. Okay. And your question is, what happened with you and Tariq Nasheed's relationship? You guys were great. I'm going to answer the question, and I'm going to try not to throw no shade because I understand the other brother, he lives off of negativity and sensationalism. I just want to say this respectfully, without going into detail. My life work is about the liberation of African people. My life's work is about the liberation of African people. I am about saving black children, which I have done my entire professional career, which we are celebrating 25 years this year. This year marks 25 years I've been saving black children, boys, girls, infants, preschoolers, juveniles, high schoolers, middle schoolers. It's what I do. 25-year track record of saving children, 25-year track record of community activism, 25-year track record of raising consciousness, 25-year track record of supporting principals and educators. As you know, in the world we live in, when two different types of energies cannot mix, they have to separate. My mission is real. I am not a fraud. I'm not a fake. I'm not an opportunist. I'm not accusing him of being one. I'm simply going to say that the reason we don't work together anymore is because our life has two totally different